So, Matt, you just got back from what's the word? Boondoggle?
Boondoggle. Give me a break. Out in Vegas, which doesn't tee it up good for anybody because I think it is a boondoggle, but definitely not. It's not my favorite place to go because I made it very clear to many people.
You told me this year you were going to try to force yourself to at least pull the handle on one slot so that everybody who asked you if you gambled, you could just say yes and move on.
So, first off, I was at Kaseya event in Vegas from Sunday to Thursday for everybody else's reference. And most people have no idea who Kaseya is other than probably heard the name Kaseya Center of the Miami Heat Stadium in Miami, obviously. But yeah, so Kaseya is a billion-dollar company that provides software solutions to the technology industry, and we use a number of their products.
They provide it to MSPs, not just technology in general.
Exactly. They're generally most of their customers are MSPs like us, IT service providers. And so that's why most people have not heard of them. But obviously, as a billion-dollar company, they do a lot. I enjoy playing cards. I do not enjoy throwing money away. And I feel like the deck is stacked against you in Vegas. I just fundamentally don't want to throw my money away there.
So you don't like throwing your money away. Why wasn't it throwing your money away? What'd you get out of it?
So I spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people.
That's a really common answer. These events,
Right.
the actual content of the people on stage is often not the most important value you come away with.
Right. And it's easy to kind of bash on the vendors and all of those things and these events not being great and all about trying to sell us something. But I will say this year they did a much better job of actually having some great presentations, conversations, sharing information about the future, what they're working on, what they're doing. But yes, a lot of times you go there because it brings a lot of people together who are sharing the same issues and experiences and work through the same thing. So that's great. It also brings a lot of just their employees together. It's software development they're doing and solution development. And so bringing all their engineers or a lot of their engineers in one place is also some of the conversations I look towards having. And so, yeah, starting early in the week, that's kind of where it kicked off. Had a great conversation with one of their engineers, which was supposed to be one of these schedule an executive meeting with one of our product managers and have 30 minutes. And I always feel like, they're doing this just to, at least let you be heard sometimes. And this one felt like it couldn't be anything more from that. It was one-on-one, started talking through things, and he was very much listening, leaning in to the point of he started calling in his peers who literally picking up his phone, or at one time he gets up and runs across the conference center to go find somebody in a different room. So yeah, Ignacio, I'll probably pronounce his name wrong, but start off with him. By the time we were done, we had 10 different people, different product managers from different products who all have to work together all around a single table, chatting and having a conversation. And so that was good.
If it was just to get you to feel placated, they worked really hard.
Exactly. They did not need to do that if they just want to make me feel like I was being heard. So hoping for great stuff, and also got reinforced from that meeting, getting together with that brought about 40 people together out of the probably 2,000 plus people who were at this event to have a focus group on a product. So that was on the following day, and definitely walked away saying they're putting a lot of resources at making this best of breed solutions for the future. So that's exciting. But the biggest takeaway, if I were to say what was the theme of all the vendors, and obviously there's lots of vendors outside of the host vendor, Kaseya, who are at this event, who serve this industry, and all of the different products that they are building under the Kaseya flag, the consistent theme is AI. It is being built into every one of the products at some phase of their product map. And it's exciting to think because still I continue to be pitching the flag of the hardest thing with AI is the creativity of how to use AI. And every time you talk to somebody, there's a new lens that you look at it through of what's possible for the future. So that was a big takeaway for sure. Obviously, security is still just the scary thing that we're all having to deal with. Nobody enjoys it type of thing. So there's plenty of that to talk about too. But
These are big marketing events when it's a convention like this. And so you have to talk about AI right now. Like you can't not mention it from a marketing perspective. But I mean, one of the things about these types of events, and Kaseya is no different, that I think is interesting is as an MSP with a bunch of clients, we are sort of seeing how 80 different people did something, and that information condenses to us. And they're one step even further up on that network node. They have a whole bunch of us who are already condensing, and we're all then condensing to them. So they tend to have some very interesting and rare perspectives with real data because they see just this condensing of a condensing of what are people really doing.
Right. And it's fascinating because you really do, as you get all those people together and you start building upon this one session I sat at, it was truly a focus group of kind of 40 different companies like us, different demographic sizes, things like that. And what they did is we went through a couple different things that they were looking for feedback on, and they broke us into groups. And as groups, we started talking. And it was just fascinating how within our small groups started building upon ideas of where things should go. And then as we brought it all together and consolidated those across all the groups that were in the room, how it continued to build from there. And light bulbs just felt like they were going off constantly of different ways to look at doing things. I think for a long time, this industry has looked at tech as being tech, and the thing you focus on is that workstation, that server, that network piece of equipment in the back room. And there's is one of the things that came out of that was definitely no, the tech needs to be focused on the user, and the users have lots of tech. The more we can focus on how are the users using this software, this hardware, and how do we then support them, and how do we go beyond just making sure they can keep working to how do we make them more productive? It's a different lens that I think needs to be the future of what we keep doing going forward.
We're doing a presentation soon where we're going to talk about AI being this paradigm shift. And one of the points I'm planning to make is to compare it to like when a horse and buggy became a horseless carriage. When we look back, standing in the future, it seems quaint and naive that these people would be confused about what's still needed and how they had like horse heads stuffed on the front of a car because that's what they thought the consumer was going to need to feel comfortable to buy, and how we're in one of those paradigm shifts right now. And so it's messy.
Yeah.
Is there anything they talked about that you're like, I didn't even realize? Do you have anything that you learned like that kind of stuff?
I mean, obviously, the first thing that comes up is the AI, is the easy one of changing the mindset of we've all been in this industry providing support to users and how you go about that support, how drastically that's going to change, and how the starting point of that support's going to change, where it's somebody picking up the phone and calling you and trying to describe things. And, we've talked about it at Hungerford for a while about every generation that comes along is more and more adept at technology, and they're more and more knowledgeable of if they just know how to do things, they probably just want to do it themselves sometimes. And so how do you help users help themselves? And I think AI is going to be a big leap in that direction, but also recognizing for how good it is, it makes mistakes and always can't make the right connections. And so shifting your brain around that is going to take some work. And that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. But that's, I think get back late last night and I've taken a lot of notes and I've already started looking at them. And as I'm reading through them, I'm realizing, oh, I forgot all about that train of thought that was going through my head as I was writing those notes. And so I'm excited to get back to actually synthesizing all of that, and we'll see what comes of that. But there's some things top of mind that I want to follow up on the security side and doing some things differently. There's a lot there, and it's going to be changing quickly. I mean, that's the pace of this stuff is happening so quick now that everybody's moving towards rolling out changes on a more frequent basis and testing things. And there's good and bad with that, but it's exciting.
Do you think you mentioned the whole younger people are more likely to Google something before they put in a ticket with us sort of phenomenon? Do you imagine AI is going to change it so that instead of Googling their problem, they're asking AI first, and then we are still the same first line? We just maybe receive a lot fewer questions that are like, oh, frontline AI could have handled that. Or do you think our front line becomes an AI thing that we are building somehow?
mean, we're going to go through so many iterations with AI. There's going to be the frontline times where you're going to and intentionally go into AI to interact. There's going to be so much AI that you don't realize you're interacting with, and it's in the background and behind the scenes. And so it's going to be both. You need help, you reach out to help, and behind the scenes, that is facilitating the frontline tech who's working with you to help support them more efficiently help you. There's going to be the responds, and you don't even know it's responding without a tech interacting. Or there's going to be obviously the times where you just go yourself, go to a chat AI and ask questions directly.
Everybody was terrified that Google is going to replace IT help desk, because why would I call into a help desk when I can Google it myself? It didn't, because the time it takes for me, an IT expert, to sift through Googling is much more efficient, and I know how to decipher what I'm reading better than the person who's trying to figure out their problem. And it just feels like so much work to Google it yourself when you're not technical. But that's a big change with AI, is sort of eliminating a lot of that cognitive load of like ciphering through, is this even relevant to what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think we've used this analogy many different times, but AI is going to be the smartest person, book smartest person you've ever met, but doesn't necessarily have full context of you, your business, and what you're trying to achieve. And so, yes, is it going to change how companies like us provide support and the people who sit in the seats of support? Yes, it will look different, but still having somebody that human who can put the context together and bring the creative solutions to know the right questions to ask. AI doesn't replace that. Somebody still has to know what to ask.
I find it interesting, just the all of the AI bots know what the internet knows, but the majority of the internet isn't actually public. It's behind different domains and behind these different things. So if I have QuickBooks and I want to ask a question, if QuickBooks has the answer publicly available, a lot of AIs are going to be able to tell you how to handle that. But if it's some my company uses QuickBooks this way type of a question, the generic internet visible stuff for AI is just not going to be able to connect those dots. And I don't think the answer becomes open all the public things up, all the private things up to the public internet, because there's security problems with that. And so there's going to be a lot of retooling we're probably going to feel pressure to do with infrastructure to make sure that the AI help can see the things it needs to be helping.
Yeah, that's AI is going to touch so many different things. And I hate that. Certainly, it was a big takeaway from this week, and rightfully so. It needs to be. For those who are kind of new to AI, I always get concerned when I start talking about it that they're saying it's taken over the world and all of that. It's definitely going to change a lot, but it's going to take a lot of work to get the most value out of it too. It starts with the basics of the power of AI today, and simple things like Microsoft Copilot is being able to point it at your trusted data to help it respond to things you need. We talk about the examples of put all your HR policies in a single folder and point an AI agent at it. And when somebody needs to ask a question, it can read all those documents and synthesize it much, much faster. Even if you're the one who wrote those policies, we all know how long those get and how frequently or infrequently we look at them, that you forget, did we have that thing in our policy? Much more efficient at sourcing through those and finding what you're looking for. So that all takes putting the right data in the right spot and pointing at AI at the right data to start with.
Another thing with the HR bot thing that I think is interesting is I've had some people kind of raise a sort of objection of like, well, I still need an HR person and I don't trust a bot to officially rule. And my point to that was the HR bot doesn't necessarily have to provide any judgment. It's going to hear the human language and say, I know the entire handbook. This section is probably the thing you should go look at and read the official answer. And then if you want to ask it, how do you interpret this? It can answer some things, but like that's starting to get out into the weird areas of like the mess of a paradigm shift that we don't really know yet.
Yeah, I don't know like exact stats, but I know enough times that somebody on our teams asked me something. I said, I know it's in the HR handbook, but why don't you go ask HR? They know it better than I do. So I can only imagine the HR teams get a lot more questions than I do. So just those simple, is it in there and where do I find it? That saves a lot of time of an expensive resource.
most of the AI stuff we talk about is focused on this sort of one user chatting with a AI bot or like kiosk kind of chat mode. Did they at the event give you any sort of like bigger things? What's on the future horizon for some of those other AI promises, like AI bots that don't need human interaction? They just do things autonomously.
Yeah, there's some of that, but as you talk about that and going back to your previous question too, some of the forward-looking things to look out for that was highlighted that changes your mindset a little bit is, in IT, we struggle a little bit now with how ease of end users to just go sign up for a subscription of a service and IT not have anything to know about it. What AI is going to be able to do is not necessarily make it easy for them to go sign up for some software, but to quite literally go write their own software. So a user can ask AI to write them software and they will have a functioning piece of software without anybody's interaction or assistance. That's
I think you just gave every IT person with responsibility for code a heart attack.
and this isn't something in the future. It's happening today, right? Now it's so rough around the edges that you're not going to get some, fully fleshed out thing per se that's going to get too much done. But boy, I always give the example on this topic today, which is different. But if you're using Microsoft Forms and trying to create a survey, in that process of going and picking what type of question you want to ask, is it multiple choice? Is it true, false? What is the question you want to ask? Now, when you go to the Microsoft Forms, you just start describing the type of survey you want and the type of questions you want, and it'll pick the right types of formatted questions and write those questions for you. And, again, it gets you 70% or 80% of the way there, and you're just editing things, cleaning it up from there. That's that half step towards fully functioning software. So I saw some examples of that anybody could go do today, and it's like I said, it's already there. And so that's definitely changes things for the future.
So it wasn't a boondoggle. If you had to pick one thing to validate your time away, why was it worth it?
Insight in the conversations with others, without a doubt. And again, that's a easy answer from everybody uses it, but it really truly double down on vendors we work with today, the vendors we don't work with today, the peers in the industry that you might have a phone call with occasionally, but you're able to sit down and have a deeper conversation with. And then obviously all the vendors and the breakout sessions. It's all that communication conversation that we can do it virtually today, and we do it virtually, but it's very, very different when you're able to be face to face and bring in other people and that type of thing.
There's just blowing smoke. I mean, one of the biggest values we have for our clients is they constantly want to know, am I doing enough? And in order to answer that question, we have to be able to say, we had experience looking at how lots and lots and lots of others do it. So yeah, that's a valid answer.
Yeah. So it was good. That was top of mind. Got back, late last night and fresh in my mind, and more to come from it.
What's your next trip?
Good question. I believe it's the end of this month, a distributor. So it's a similar type of event, but much shorter this time, 1 or 2 days type of thing. This is that season. Enjoy going to these a couple times a year, but definitely not the big time traveler.
Well, if it's a month away, that's enough time for AI to completely reinvent everything we talked about today by then.
Exactly. Good.
Thanks for your time, Matt.
See ya.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.